right, guys. So we are going to be talking about the ups and downs of shooting film in Chicago, from pre-production, post-production, into production. What is the city doing well? What is it not doing well? How can we get more film in Chicago? And how can we support our local filmmakers? So my name is Bish. I am a producer, director, writer in Chicago, working on mostly comedies and some horror stuff. That stuff's kind of fun. And I am a big cheerleader of our city's filmmaking scene, which is why I wanted to talk to these fine people. So if you wouldn't mind, could you go around and just introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Lape. I'm a Chicago filmmaker. I was in LA before moving out here about 10 years ago. I do some acting occasionally, but mostly writing and directing.
Hello, I'm Michael Glover Smith. I am a Chicago-based writer, director, author, and film studies instructor.
My name is Lori Felker, and I am also Chicago-based since 2005, and I am an weird artist and an experimental filmmaker and a documentary filmmaker and a fiction filmmaker, or I'll do whatever. They usually end up being hybrid, actually, and I also am an assistant professor at DePaul in the film school.
I am John Mossman. I'm a writer, film director. I also have a theater company where I direct and act, and I'm also an instructor at various schools around here. So I know several of you just through that.
My name is Jim Vendiola. I am a writer-director as well, sometimes an editor, sometimes a producer. I've been based in Chicago for like 23, 24 years, and I am a Florida native, and I hope you won't hold that against me.
Jim, I am so happy that you're sitting on the end because we actually do have a little bit of a surprise for you. Raul? All right, this is Raul Benitez from the Chicago Underground Film Festival. Why are you on stage?
Well, happy you asked me that. Nice to see everyone. Jim, I'm here to present you an award from 2022 for Pretty Pickle at the Chicago Underground Film Festival. I just happen to have the award right here, so let me hand it to you. Big hand, everyone.
It's a great film. I love Pretty Pickle.
This was so by design because I have been so lazy that I've not picked it up. And so, just, you know. Thanks, y'all.
Very nice, of course. Thank you so much. Great to start off with a bang. All right, guys. So the first thing I want to ask you, because this is Chicago style, why do you work as a filmmaker in Chicago?
That could be good for, I mean, I hate to pass it to you, but you moved back to Chicago on purpose.
Oh, no, I never lived in Chicago before.
Oh, yeah, but you
Yeah.
moved back.
I think I'm in the hot seat here. I picked the wrong seat to go first. I'm pretty shy. So what was the question? Why pick Chicago? Why Chicago? I like the smaller community for film. LA, I was out there for about 8 years, and it was just kind of overwhelming and hard to find my community. It was very transient. So I think the advantages here really make it appealing to me.
I did move back from Los Angeles, willingly moved back to Chicago, not extradited. And I really like Chicago. One of the reasons I picked it is because you hear a lot about cities that, like, if you know musicians or filmmakers or actors, are like, that city chewed me up and spit me out. And like, nobody says that about Chicago. It's brash, it's not easy, it expects a lot of you, but it's also very much an ensemble town. And I think that goes all the way back to like its history and like improv and the DIY nature of early Steppenwolf, which I think for me just forms the ensemble feel and the supportive feel in the city. So I came back, I had a kid, did not want to raise my kid there, and I came back here and just said I want to be an artist, and the city embraced it.
Yeah, I came here in 2005 to go to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for art school, for the Film Video New Media program. And I did that, and I found out that, like, because I'm a tech dork, I could be the DP for all these artists who didn't know how to run cameras. And there are multiple schools here that have a lot of 16 millimeter options. So School of the Arts of Chicago, UIC, I think Northwestern, but U of C. And I started in 16 millimeter. I still shoot 16 millimeter on a lot of things. And so, like, that's really helpful, but also all those universities I've mentioned, plus that, now DePaul's a part of my life, that is like, there's such a connectivity between all of the schools, the resources. Every time I've come up with a crazy idea, if I needed 9 cats, which I did for a film, if I needed film, if I needed a strange artist to perform for me, I could find them really easily. The networks overlap really nicely. It didn't feel too separated. And so because I lived here, I've just never had a problem living here. Everything I've tried to do, I've been able to figure it out. And so I have no reason to go anywhere else. That's maybe the way I would put it.
Okay. I originally moved up here from North Carolina back in the 1990s to go to theater school at DePaul before DePaul even had a film school. That's how old I am. And I did go to grad school in California at Humboldt State University, way up north in the Redwoods. And I came back immediately after. I mean, it never even occurred to me to try and make films out there because I love Chicago. I think it's honestly the best city in the United States. But more specifically, I mean, I think there is a certain Chicago attitude towards filmmaking that's also similar to what you see in theater and really all of the arts, which is that the focus tends to be on the work itself rather than on, trying to climb a ladder. So, I've been very fortunate to have my film screen in New York and LA in, independent theaters as well as festivals. And it's just so strange to screen there and then afterwards talk to other filmmakers and everyone's talking about what they're going to do next. And, you kind of feel like you have to play that game to prove yourself. And here, it's just so much more laid back. The focus is on just trying to do good work. And I like that. I think that's very much a Midwestern vibe and a Chicago vibe.
Yeah, it definitely feels more artistic driven versus commercially driven. Like, of course, we all want to be commercially successful, but it just feels like, at least in Chicago, you can just be an artist, create what you want, just because you want to,
Yeah, that is actually why I ended up staying here. I was a Florida State Film School reject. I tried to get into that very exclusive program for the first 2 years of my undergrad and ended up in their studio art program. So I was a bit of like an art school brat making like pretentious video art and doing a lot of psychedelics. And I was like, okay, this will be like a springboard to moving to New York, just sort of like staying with family in Chicago. And in the interim, I started interning for Reeling, which as a lot of you probably know is like the oldest lesbian and gay film festival in the country. And from there, I started getting work programmed at Cuff. And I just found a really like cool art community here, realizing that the people I was meeting here, and making these like authentic connections was probably a lot more valuable to not just my art process, but also, just my development as like a person and socially than just sort of trying to make it in New York and not having any connections or know anyone there. And to that end, I was really drawn to the sort of like punk rock attitude that, Chicago sort of makes films under, at least, if it's not like overtly so, it's just kind of like we're always trying to do our own thing and we're not really like basing it on any type of, just sort of consistent style. So I think that's like very apparent if you visit any of the programs here, watch people's shorts, watch people's features. There's just such like, everything is across the board. Arguably, in terms of quality, yes, but in terms of like, messaging as well and perspective. And so I think it's a really, not only immersive and inspiring place, but it's also very educational. Like you get so many different viewpoints just like watching other people's stuff.
I like that so many of you talked about the community access and the community support that's within the film scene in Chicago. Oh, my notebook. What's fascinating is that I think that's one of the secret strengths that the city has. And especially for younger filmmakers, which there are a ton in the audience. Can you talk a little bit about moments or instances where you tapped into that community and it supported your career? Where you tapped into that community and it supported your career.
I can talk about that right now. I am making my first fiction feature this summer. And like I said, I'm from the art world, and I make stuff in my basement. I still do by myself. I've made even some of the short fiction films I've made. I used everything I'd learned in the art studio world to make those, like where I was the producer and whatever. I figured out how to make a schedule. I called everybody. I didn't care. It was fun, right? You build a good team and you want to hang out with these people and make this movie. And all the while you're trying to convince them like, yeah, it's all going to be put together with jump cuts. And people are like, what? And you're like, and so you have to like, just to even make something that's a little weird or a little different or really you have to tap into the community because you need to find the people you've built relationships with where they know you and understand you and believe you and trust you, even though what you're saying is insane. But then also I have found so far with this feature, like just wild stuff like I have like a very specific situation with Chicago Underground Film Festival. I used to work with Brian there. And we would go to this guy, Lee Kohler's house, and he would design the books, and we'd sit in his bedroom, and he'd be doing graphic design, and he had a jersey and a kit for being on the Chicago Gay Hockey Association. And I was like, oh, we have a gay hockey association? That's really cool. I met Lee, probably 15, 20 years ago at this point, and now I need a gay men's hockey team in my movie. And it sounds, yeah, okay, I wrote it in because I know about it, because I met people, and because I'm not a shitty person. And so I was able to like email this guy I haven't talked to in a little while, and he's like, hey, Lori, I remember you. Yeah, I'll connect you. And it's that like time, effort, unrelated to film even, or unrelated to making your movies, where then you can go back and people just want to support you because you are the art too. Like you're the thing that people want to see flourish, even more than your film necessarily. And that only comes from these like community relationships, I think.
The gay men's hockey team is so Guy Madden of you, and I say that in like the best possible way.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say for like gear hookups, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a shoot, and just this last fall, I was on a feature film, and when the lens broke midday, we had all the locations booked, and just being able to like call somebody I know that has a lens that would work was amazing. So I think just like always being there for each other because you never know when you're gonna need it. So that's one of the biggest things that stand out to me.
Where I tapped into it, yeah, mine was at a total moment of crisis. I'd actually been to something like this, and I'd moved here, I had kids, and I was working with a really toxic production company, and essentially just said fuck you to them without having any fuck you money. So that was a mistake. And so I found myself just at one of these things, and I gave a movie. It was intentionally retro, but it's kind of experimental movie, and I gave it to an instructor and someone who was on the board at the IFP, basically. It's the group that's got a booth out here. They're great. And like 6 or 8 months later, and I've been applying to Columbia, like to try and get a teaching position, and everywhere, never got a response, not even a no. And then I get a call and says, I've been using your movie to teach my class. and we have a last second need for a teacher. Can you come in tomorrow and explain circles of confusion? I was like, yes! Got out my book, and it changed my whole life. And it was just from like being at a place like this, having a glass of wine with some guy who was actually a film-friendly filmmaker. Filmmaker-friendly filmmaker. And that's like, to me, that was a life-changing. Thank you, Michael.
I'd like to tell a story about the first time I made a film that was really exhibited here, because that's the first time I felt like I was really kind of plugged into the local film community. My first feature is a no-budget film called Cool Apocalypse, which I shot in the summer of 2014. And when I say no budget, I mean the budget. I raised like $6,000 and shot the whole thing in my own apartment. Submitted it to some festivals, got rejected by Cuff. Hi, Brian.
It's all about Brian Wendorf.
But I got accepted at some other festivals around the country, and then won a couple of awards, and that sort of got my confidence up a little bit. And I thought, well, maybe it is pretty good, you know. And so then I submitted it just blindly. I emailed the programmers at the Gene Siskel Film Center, which has always been my favorite theater to attend movies as a spectator. And those programmers are no longer there, but you guys, some of you might remember Marty Rubin and Barbara Sherris, just phenomenal programmers. And they watched it and they said, yeah, we'd like to give you 2 screenings. And that just blew my mind, because I'm not aware of them ever having programmed a feature film that was made on a budget that low, you know. And so I was blown away, and they said, but you know, when we program local filmmakers, we expect for you to do grassroots marketing. So really try and get the word out. And I just went over the top. I printed out postcards and I dropped them off all over the city. And I emailed every journalist, every critic, begging them to review my film or to interview me about it. And they programmed us in Theater 1, which is a 200-seat theater, and the first screening sold out. And then the second screening was more than half full. And honestly, that was what encouraged me to keep going, because not only did we have those 2 screenings, we got reviewed by Ray Pride in New City, back when New City was an alternative weekly, and he made us his critics pick for the week. And that was the encouragement that I needed. And I said, oh, now I can do this again, and I can do it, on a bigger scale.
Just wanted to capture the moment.
Always. Yeah. So are we still on like the anecdotal thing about how we sort of broke in?
Was that like a Men in Black camera that erased your memory when you saw the flash?
Yeah,
It was a reverse.
I can only focus on one thing at a time, so.
Yeah, tell us a story.
So I don't know if you guys know who Ryan Dugan is, the very, very awesome and talented Chicago poster designer. Like, his silkscreen work is, any and every band that comes through here seems to end up working with him, and he does their posters. But 20 years ago, he was really like, we were both nobody, and he was kind of like doing this like Banksy-ish type of street art on the CTA trains, and I got my first commission to sort of make a documentary that had to do anything thematically with Chicago. And so I managed to track him down because I was a fan of his CTA street art. And I made this documentary about him for like $500 that I just raised through family and friends, and 200 of that went to a external hard drive, So just no budget kind of thing. And similar to Michael, but at the short doc level, it started getting a lot of play. It ended up at Cuff at one point, and that was my first thing that got programmed at Cuff, I believe, in like 2005. And from there, yeah, I just started to, like, go to these events, like meet people, stay in touch with people. I cut the, I think I cut most of that movie on the, the iMac that was at Chicago Filmmakers that I used when I was like the graphic design intern there for reeling. So yeah, just like pulled it together with very little. So yeah, I mean, and a lot of times, just like getting it done, Chicago rewards you in that way, so.
All right, so we've said a lot of amazing things about this city, but what do we need to improve on? How can we make this a better place for independent filmmakers? Here we go.
I'm doing my black metal voice. Producers and money. Distributors. Distributors. Yeah, I think we don't want everybody to leave. I teach all these beautiful babies all the time at all these different schools, and then my babies leave, which I totally get, like, especially because everybody should try a different place if they want to and stuff, but maybe take it from those of us who've moved back here. But it's like I really think we can do so much more and have a more comfortable body of people that we can all go to as independent filmmakers if people just sort of stuck around, and then we have to build off of that. Because like for me, doing my first indie feature, very first thing I was like, I need to meet people. I don't work with producers and stuff that regularly. I need to meet producers. So I ask everyone I know, including people in the know, and everybody tells me about the same 2 people. That was pretty annoying, like right off the bat, because I was like, well, I already met her for coffee and she's busy. And that other guy won't email me back. You know what I mean? And then it's like, that's just the producers too. They aren't the money. They might help you find the money, or they might be a gateway to money, or they're just helping you produce, make phone calls, call locations, whatever. So many different things that producers do. And so it was just like, I just kept hitting like, not dead ends, but like really short roads that all led to the same 3 names repeatedly. And that means those people are freaking awesome, which is great. But I was just like, where are we all? And then some people had moved to LA, which is fine. But I also personally really wanted to work side by side with somebody, right? And at this point, still all of my meetings are on Zoom all the time. And I want to create with people and enjoy that time. So it's like getting people to stay and invest, and that means investing money, investing time, starting small production companies here where independent filmmakers can come to you to see if you have room on your slate to get their film in. And like, it's just, we have a few that do it, and we just need more because we're producing incredible filmmakers at these schools, and they leave the school and they walk out and they're like, hello, where do I go? Yeah.
I would say, on top of some of the stuff you just said, I would say, I want to say distribution, but distribution is just so screwed everywhere. I don't know if that's really, we can solve it, but I think we should be thinking about it, how to get a better model for us, even if it's just more Midwestern based. I don't know, it's just fucked. Investors, we need an investor model. We got people out there who will invest in restaurants, which is almost as stupid. And
I just talked to somebody today that's saying that like all the investors, invest in restaurants. I'm like, do they make any money back? And he was like, oh, no. But they think they're so cool, the investors. And I was like, I'm cool. Associate them with me.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think we need, because we go to all these, panels, and and I don't know, I saw one with like Christine Vachon's like Killer Films, and they're on the producers up there. Oh, we'll read your script. I'm like, well, what if I'm not represented? We won't read your script. Where do I find an agent? New York, LA, right? So I can't get my scripts if I want someone else to do them, and I think it might be good for Killer Films. They won't read it because I don't have representation, and I don't know anyone here in town that does that, and so I might have to go back out to the coast and do that whole game again.
Yep. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
You go ahead.
Okay. Talking about investing, I think I've got horror stories. I could talk for hours about my experience of raising funds for the films I've made or I'm about to make. But one of the things that investors, at least I've come across, and Michael, me and you talk about this a lot, is they're willing to invest a portion of the budget for that tax incentive. And so I think one of the disadvantages about being in Illinois, not necessarily Chicago, is just that budget level that you have to be at to get that tax incentive, and then therefore to get that investment from an investor that knows you're going to automatically get that 30% back or whatever, 35% sometimes. Because I don't know anybody that's making a short film for $50K. All my indie friends are not doing that.
Features have to be $100,000 for the
Yeah,
tax credit?
feature, and I mean, not many people I know that are in the indie world are making features for $100K. It's really hard to raise that money.
I mean, you guys have both made great ones for 70 or less, like multiple times, right?
yeah, I have right now, I have a film that's 80% funded, and that was really hard to get that money. And part of the investment that I got was because I'm shooting it in New Mexico, and they have a no budget minimum on that tax incentive. So I get 40% back. So for me to raise 80% of my budget, it really wasn't that hard. I had to deal with a lot of crazy producers and like investors to get that, but that want creative control and all that stuff that you have to kind of negotiate with them. But I think Illinois could do a lot better job of lowering that minimum, and then also just being more supportive of indie artists, because I think there are indie films that have that budget minimum that they make, and then they get rejected for the tax credit, and it's really frustrating, right?
Yeah, because
So-
the appeal process is just horrible.
so long.
And time is money. Like if it's going to take up all of our time and we're freelancers or adjuncts or teachers or something, like it's just a time where I have to stop working on this film on the side because I got to go teach the babies again. I have a student right here in the front. He likes when I call them babies. He's a big baby. I'm just rude. I'm sorry.
Just to piggyback off of what everyone has said, I think the easiest part of making a film in Chicago is actually making the film. You know, the physical act of making the film, that's the easy part, that's the fun part. The hard part is finding investors, raising money, and then at the end, getting distribution. So we have all the talent in the world right here in Chicago. We have amazing writers, amazing directors, cinematographers, editors, production designers, so much talent, and yet it's, you know, every film I make, it's just it's a hustle, and I've made now 4 feature films. The first one I told you about already. Since then, my budgets have ranged from $20,000 to $100,000, and I'm getting ready to shoot my 5th feature in August, and it is
Heckla.
it's going to be mostly self-financed through the sale of my condo. And
Sell
people
your
are telling
condo.
me that I'm stupid to do it, and I agree with them, but I'm going to do it anyway because,
So if
because
anyone's-
you have, you know, you.
The alternative is you don't have a movie.
Yeah, the alternative is you don't have a movie. I mean, how many more chances am I going to have to do this? You
Werner
know, it's
Herzog
like-
said, "Sell your car," and I will do whatever Werner Herzog says that I
That's
should do.
right. I mean, what the hell else is there to live for? If you're an artist, you got to make art, and you have to do it by any means necessary.
And you have the creative control at that point. Like with Mercy's Girl, my film, I self-funded, just like waiting tables and putting all my money away, and I think I got like maybe $2,000 or $3,000 from somebody, but I own that. That's mine. When I got a distribution deal, I got to decide what to negotiate. I got to decide on final cut, and I know you've had some interesting experiences as well of like producers, investors wanting to be involved, and so I think the benefit is now, Michael, it's your film, 100%.
You invested a little in it, though.
I did.
So you have some say.
No, I don't. It's fine.
So yeah, I am curious because we have just heard so much about Los Angeles losing business, and still production companies, studios are headquartered there, even though they're not shooting there. So in terms of between that and then also sort of this fluctuating industry where audiences at like major cinema chains are dying and blockbusters aren't getting the releases or the audiences that they expect, you know, in this sort of fragmenting market, is there a beacon of hope for the low-budget indie filmmaker to offer, you know, something at what can be a profit because the overhead is so low?
I mean, we don't have to get deep into Sean Baker because people have opinions, but I really like what he said in like his many speeches in the Honora Awards season, which was the like, what do you want? Do you want like 5 $2 million features or one $10 million feature? Or like, it's $2 million, it's like blows my mind. I feel like, oh, I'd be able to pay everybody pretty well and appropriately, still being resourceful, still being reasonable, right? It's not like we're flying to Tunisia and reshooting Star Wars shot for shot or something like that. But it's like, you make the movie to fit the budget, but there's so much, we could run these wonderful little economies. Like, you're a boss, I'm a boss, you're a boss. Like, we're all kind of, we could run these really good little mini companies that are each film, get people who are talented, paid correctly, give them a month's worth of work, if not more. But instead, we're kind of left, like, we kind of, sometimes, I feel like a bit of an asshole, because I'm like, sorry, I can only pay you $100 a day, because there's just no room to move. But it's like, it's only so much more that we need in order to make these nice little economies that someone could paste together a year of like 4 indie features to pay their bills and stuff like that. But we're spending so much on single films at this really high level, and so much of that money is wasted, totally wasted. And there's been a lot more reports on that coming out in LA, like spending way too much on talent or spending way too much on travel or food. Oh, it's so much. I want films to be way more sustainable. There's so much garbage making when we make films because we create all this stuff and then we just trash it because it's like intellectual property, blah, blah, blah. It's mind-numbing. But so like that, someone coming in at this like mid-producing level that can see this, like, I need like $1 million a year to make 5 $2 million movies, and there are so many people here waiting with all the talent. You could throw a movie together really fast and do so much with that budget, and then hopefully it could feed itself back. You know, especially for making horror films, those make great money back.
And that's the thing, is I'm wondering if there's like a distribution hole that we can fill at this moment, because the drive for content is so overwhelming, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. There's just churning and churning and churning. But at the same time, are there opportunities now for people to just put their stuff out there, where traditionally you would have to have gone through, you know, a distribution that would get you into theaters, and they would have to get butts and seats. Now with sort of being online, are we seeing an emergence of that, or is it still very fragmented?
I mean, I think streaming is a graveyard, to be honest with you. You know, people who put their work online, it's like, it's one way to get feedback, but you're just one film among a million films, and unless you're personally contacting people and giving them a link, it's very hard, you know, for people to sort through all of that stuff. I'm a huge proponent of the big screen experience, and I think I'm always amazed that indie filmmakers don't, especially when they make features, that they don't do more to try and get their work seen on the big screen. I mean, I think you should email every independent theater in the country, you know, asking them to show your film. And that's what I did with my last film, Relative, which screened in 17 states in the United States, plus a couple screenings in Toronto. And the budget of that film was $75,000, and we ended up grossing over $26,000 theatrically. So that's just self-distributing it. That's me emailing theaters and then them agreeing to split the box office with me 50-50. But that's a lot of work too. You know, it's kind of like, that's a job in and of itself. But I'm happy to do it because that's how I like to watch movies, and that's how I want my work to be seen.
Michael, did you go to every one of those?
I didn't go to all of them because I also have another job.
Yeah.
But I did go to a lot of them. I mean, basically, and by the way, if any filmmakers out there, if you want an example of the kind of email that I sent to theaters, I'll share it with you. Because I tweaked it a little bit depending on who I was sending it to. But I always said, you know, it's like, here's our poster, here's our trailer, here is what the critics said, here's the awards we've won. do you want to show it? And if so, there's a very good chance that I'll come out and do a Q&A. And a lot of theaters were very receptive to that because they, especially if it's a small indie theater, they know they're going to sell more tickets if they can advertise a Q&A. People love Q&As. So, you know, I went out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, the Jean Cocteau Cinema, which is owned by George R.R. Martin. An amazing place. It's got a weird little booth in the back with a one-way mirror, and that's where George R.R. Martin sits and watches movies. So you never know if he's there or not because it looks like a mirror, but he might be in there. Anyway, I know. But like when we screened there, you know, we sold 66 tickets, which is crazy because I don't know anyone in Santa Fe. So I think there is reason to be optimistic when it comes to self-distributing your work.
I was gonna say, I think Michael does a really good job of being his own like salesperson. But I think one of the things, if you're not like me, I feel I'm pretty good about contract negotiations, but pitching myself always makes me really uncomfortable. But internationally, there's a lot of theaters that would love to screen American-made indie films, and finding a sales agent that will take your film to some of the market festivals, and they only make a percentage if they get a theater to sign up with distribution. So it's like really no cost to you other than a percentage share of it. So my film has done really well internationally, and part of that is because of one, working with a sales agent that specializes in that.
All right, let's open it up to some questions from the audience. Okay, right away, go for it, sir.
Well, after making my first feature film, I was still waiting tables for many years afterwards. I was making money off of my film, but it wasn't enough to provide any type of living wage. So yeah, I didn't tell anybody to shove it. I said, hey, can I film in here for free? Is what we ended up doing. But I would say it really can be defeating trying to raise money on your own for your own productions. But I think if you can limit your crew, that's what I did. I just had one sound person, one camera, one first AC, and that was it. That was all I could afford. It was like $30,000 for that feature film. I've since made triple times that back in sales, which is really nice. But yeah, if you keep your budget really low, I think it can make you get some enthusiasm in your production by just being like, okay, I only need this much more. And I paid day by day. So sometimes I didn't have the money and I was like, shit, I gotta pick up a shift so I can pay the crew. The 2 or 3 people that I'm paying $200 a day. Or I gotta pay for this location. So I don't
Can I ask you a question that you just asked? Are you also saying that it's hard to just work a soul-crushing job and to keep those dreams alive, or is it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I have any trouble keeping the dream alive. I was just wondering, I see in the distance, maybe hopefully a day where I can stop waiting tables. Nobody wants to wait tables forever, I guess. So if you got to see here.
Yeah, because I really sympathize with that, because that's actually what my whole life has been, is looking on a spectrum of how much do I hate and how much do I love, and gradually you just first find good people. If you're going to be at a restaurant, don't be with fucking assholes, right? And if people are terrible to you at a table, go become a bartender. They're nicer to you. And then, I was a process server, and you know what? People were polite to me when I gave them a process serving, and I was able to go out and go to a meeting or an audition in between. So I found that I actually didn't dislike that when I lived in LA. When I came back here, I was talking about that toxic group I was with. Saying no to the toxic people in my life changed everything to me. And gradually the people that were all positive, they supported my dreams. And they all said, you're overqualified for this. I'm glad you are here doing this, though. And so I would just say find the positive people, because you can always go back and make some extra cash. You know what? Sometimes I miss bartending. I miss process serving. I don't know why, but, you know.
And I still have a day job. You know, I still have a day job. I'm not making all my money off of film or anything. It's nice to have.
All of us have day jobs,
Yeah, all
right?
of us,
Is
yeah.
And we all have really high standards. We need a lot of, no.
Did someone in the back ask for the question to be repeated? The question is, how do you make the transition from working a soul-crushing job like waiting tables to actually making films? And the answer is you find a way to do both simultaneously.
Yeah, and that's also filmmaking, indie filmmaking in a nutshell, is your soul will be crushed over and over and over again, and you just got to be a tough motherfucker. You just got to want to do it.
Because the elevation part is worth it.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
when-
crushed, but then when it's good, it's freaking.
Yeah.
I miss why you're in this room. Something positive regarding a film happened.
Yeah, when you win, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say too that I think that like to me, and again, no offense to my students, teaching, whether you're adjuncting or you end up with a full-time gig like I'm very lucky to have done. I still think of it as I was a waitress. I worked at Big Boy, David Lynch. Whether you're a waitress, a waiter, a teacher, a freelancer, it's more about that style of job that's important. This holding on to that so you have a paycheck, maybe insurance, yes, that would be even better. Or you move out of America where we screw everything up. But like, because you hold on to that and you can move the days around, you can like already my feature might trample on the first class I have to teach this fall, and I'm already talking to other teachers about covering the class for me. It's possible. If you're like in an office 9 to 5 and you can't take off, obviously that's really hard to do, right? So finding a job that fits filmmaking, so you have some time off, movable hours, whatever, working from home, I actually like encourage it, not like hopefully you'll never have to do that, but encourage it in a very realistic way, because I'm making this feature, I'm not in the budget. I'm not paying myself out of this, it saves me a ton of money. If I gave myself like the right percentage of director's pay, I have to raise a whole other like $20,000 to $50,000, right? I don't want to do that. I don't need to, because DePaul pays my bills and I have insurance and I have no anxieties about that. And there's something about that. When I was early on, when I was freelancing and adjuncting, I had 3 jobs. I was projectionist, everything, all this stuff. But I would make weird films. Every weekend we'd drive up to Wisconsin and shoot a weird film and blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't have to worry about that paying me back. It got to be my true art. So like finding the way to, so maybe like if you like the restaurant you're at, stay there, hold on to it. If you're not, maybe you just need a different, waiting job or table job, but
Or learn some crew skills and do that. Like when I lived in LA, I was trying to wait tables and bartend and stuff. But I was also an extra, and they pay really well for extras. It's like $400 for 8 hours, and then it's just crazy. I know we don't have the same market or opportunities here, but I do know there are a lot more crew positions here than obviously writing and directing. So, and it still gets you involved with the community and meeting people.
All right, I apologize. I will summarize questions after they're asked. Go for it.
How has your experience been? Is there a relationship between the type of truly no budget, low budget indie filmmaking that you're all making with that world? And if there isn't or isn't, like, what is that relationship like?
So the question was, what is the relationship, or have you had experiences between being sort of low to no budget indie filmmakers and the bigger budget shows that do shoot in Chicago?
Go ahead.
No, just real quickly, the way that it relates to me is I'm pretty much just a director now, and then I teach a couple classes. And the way that it relates to me is when I'm looking for crew, I see those guys downstairs loading into Keslow or going up to Camera Ambassador or wherever, and they're going and dragging sound gear around. They're surviving. And then they support their indie bullshit film, old Joe Mossman, film habit by having all that. And a lot of my students that are now, they're now staying here. And if anyone here is still a student, stay here. Stay here first before you run out to the coast, because I think that then you feed the fabric. And I'll tell you what else, when you're on my set, and you're probably on anybody's set here, you're gonna have way more of a voice than you're gonna have at a lot of other places. But learn a craft and get work as a mixer, as a boom op, right? Were you boom op? Fuck yes! 10 years with the stick. Yeah, so I would say for me, that's that, I get a lot of people from there that wanna do stuff like what we do. I'm grateful.
Yeah, when commercial crews want to do your indie because they want to do it, there's nothing like it. Chicago is super loyal like that.
Yeah, I have no examples from just the past 6 months. My own DP is someone who has been like a DP, second DP on The Bear, but this would be her first like feature indie, and so she's like, look, I know how to do all that stuff. I'm in that stuff, but I'm just doing someone else's work. Like, I will get paid less to build my creative vision with you. Like, that's amazing. I heard a grad student at DePaul also has this, like, a studio camera guy. They met at some random filmmaker meetup, and he's like a really tight AC, I think, maybe, or something, and he was just like, I have dreams, I'm creative, please let me. And she was like, do you want to shoot my MFA thesis film? And he was like, sure. And now they're like continuing to work together because it's like his creative outlet, and he's not doing it for the money because he makes a lot of good money at the studio stuff, and then she's getting this really excellent thing. And ultimately then too, it's just all about like, do you jive with this person? But yeah, I've heard a lot of stories recently about talented, awesome crew members who want to play.
Yeah, filmmaking is filmmaking. I think it really doesn't matter the budget level. I mean, I've been lucky. I've had Periscope do the post audio for one of my films. I've had Noise Floor do the audio for several others. And I've worked with cinematographers who are masters, including Jason Chu, who's going to be speaking here tomorrow. He shot a film I made called Mercury in Retrograde. Yeah, he's a master. And we shot that film in Michigan, southwestern Michigan, where I also woke up this morning, but that's a different story. And I worked with a really great French actress named Roxane Mesquida. I don't know if you guys know her. Did anyone here see the movie Fat Girl by Catherine Breillat? One of the greatest movies ever made. And she's the co-lead, and she agreed to be in my, in my crazy low-budget movie. And I remember on the set, everyone was eating lunch, and she looks around, and she's a very experienced actress. She was looking around, and she goes, every set is the same. No matter the budget, you have this, everyone takes a lunch break. They all kind of, people, break off into little groups. The camera crew eats together, and they talk about the same shit, So, I mean, when you make your first film and it's really low budget, $6,000, it's hard to imagine how can I do this for $100,000? But then once you do, then you realize, oh wait, it's the same thing. And now I know I can do it for $1 million.
I think also sometimes you just gotta be ready because like last fall or fall before, I can't remember, there was a big Chicago studio that wanted to fund something for a tax write-off. So they were looking for a filmmaker that had a script done, ready, could crew up really fast for like, I don't know, it was like $300,000. You had to shoot most of it in their studio lot. And they were looking for somebody that had a friendship with a nonprofit so they could use it as a tax write-off. So that came across my desk. I didn't have anything ready. I passed it on to other filmmakers I know. But stuff like that, sometimes you'll get these bigger studios or production houses that want to work with smaller artists in unique ways, which is really cool to see.
And I would just say, for everybody here, if you're looking for any opportunity, new opportunity, just keep your eyes open for it every second of the way. I met this guy, I don't know, I guess it's just from a film festival or an event like this, and he became a friend. He produced like a couple of the Godfather movies and Apocalypse Now. And so he would talk to me about my stupid short films. And I'd say, I don't know if I'm ready for this next one. It's like, you know, it involves horses and kids in the desert. They're like, you're only going to be 50% ready for anything worth doing. The rest depends on a fast learning curve. And so, like, I kind of think that's how I've modeled my life, and my kids have modeled their life. They've heard that 4,000 times. Is like, develop your learning curve, and the second you get an opportunity to do something, say yes. You might fuck up a little the first day, but as long as you're not fired, you're going to be much better the next day, and it's going to you're given that opportunity for a reason.
All right, any other questions? I feel like I've been picking them from the front. So if the back, all the way in the back, all the way in the last row, yes, your hand. Yeah. How do you navigate working in film and having a family?
Not sleeping is usually the default approach.
Also involving my kid as much as I can, whatever that means. At least like she loves to come to CineSpace because we teach, DePaul has classes at CineSpace. If she knows where I'm going and what I'm doing, and then I have to say, you're not going to see me for 24 hours because mommy's going to be on that like IKEA set or whatever, she's just like, cool. You know, I think that helps with because they're also like, as soon as they're playing Roblox, they're fine on their own. But if there is any sort of like, they miss you separation thing, like if they can imagine what you're doing and be proud of you, I think that really means a lot to my daughter. She's 8.
I have 2 kids, and they're grown now, not in the arts, but growing up, I told them, if we ran a grocery, or Mom and I ran a grocery store, you'd have to learn how to stock and work checkout and chase shoplifters. But we run a theater company, and I'm a filmmaker, so you got to act, you got to be a understudy for every kid role that ever gets cast, and you're going to have to learn how to be my assistant and grip, and you're going to have to learn what this shit is. And they've told me since then that they don't resent that, but they are not in the arts. But they do have really good social, they're socially adept. I think that's a good thing of including them. Take them to the theater, take them to the set as much as you can. And then when they just decide to go make money in their life, just tell them they have to be a board member. That's the only proviso I have.
Wonderful. Another question? Yes, go for it.
I was curious to know any thoughts you guys had for those of us who are concerned about the way technology is moving in terms of AI and the level at which that technology is advancing to the point where it feels like, am I going to be able to get hired for crew in like the next 5 years? Like, am I going to be able to, like, is there going to be a want for the films that, you know, a lot of us want to make if you have other people who can just type in a prompt and have an entire, like, hour-long feature or something?
So are you guys worried about AI? How is that changing your thinking about the future?
I mean, I think it's part of it is like audiences don't want AI films. And tech nerds, have you guys watched Mountainhead? Is that what it's called? The Steve Carell, the guy who did Succession, did like a quick movie. They made it in like 6 months. They like wrote it, improvised it. It's like Steve Carell and Jason Schwartzman and stuff. And it's just a bunch of billionaires in a ski loft talking about the future of technology. And like the world is burning around them. And it's really interesting. It's not perfect, but it's like a really interesting, like really quick response to what's going on right now. And I do think we're hearing a lot from the people who are making AI and investing in AI, that AI is amazing and like all this stuff. But do any of you want to know that your movies are AI, or do you want David Lynch to come back from the dead and make you another movie? Like, we want resurrection. We don't want AI. we want Kelly Reichardt to make 2 movies a year. We want, like, you know what I mean? I think we know that, and I know we're filmmakers, but I just think in general it's true. Like, everything we've ever loved and enjoyed was a unique idea from a person, and if I even knew that someone made the perfect thing for me based on a survey I filled out or something, I would just barf all over it and never put money into it. So I actually think that it might kill itself because we are on the floor and we're the ones that are going to keep showing up and making these movies. And there's just enough of us to keep that going, and the billionaires can all go die in a ski lodge together. Don't quote me on that.
All right. Well, I love how that ended. Before we sign off, because we are getting to the end of the panel, I'm wondering what's coming up next for you guys. Jim was pointed to. Jim, go for it.
Okay, I have a queer body horror feature in late development. We're just trying to close the gap on financing right now, so I don't know when we're going to shoot, but hopefully it's pretty soon. And I also have a TV show in development that has had a very interesting life because it started out with Warner Brothers, and the development was partially financed by Warner with a first look with HBO, but then the merger with Discovery happened, and then that deal died. But the beauty part of it is now we own the intellectual property entirely. And so, but like, that also leaves us with not many places to go, at least without the support of a studio. So that's been an interesting journey. So I don't know when that's going to get going. So of course, my move is to just develop another TV show. So that's what I'm doing. So I have a second TV show in development.
Just a bounty. Very good.
I'm just finishing up a short film and proof of concept for a series called Nobody Fucking Leaves, story of a woman with a secret so deep even she doesn't know it. And hopefully that will be done shortly. Then I'm starting, I've been directing a feature in August, and then hopefully directing a play after that. Cool. The movie in August is Line Cooks, and it's produced by JourneyWorks. I don't know if any of you know Ryan and Anna, both people, but it's them. They're awesome.
Well, I am pre-producing my feature right now. We start mid-August, go into early September. It's called Patient. I have a short film of the same name that wasn't quite a proof of concept, but it's related in theme. It was a bit of a research for the feature that's been happily still traveling around the world for 2 years. And yeah, I'm excited to make my movie.
Yeah, I already mentioned earlier, I'm shooting my 5th feature in August. It's called Hecla. I am self-producing, but in collaboration with Sweet Void Cinema. And we're going to need a lot of extras. So there is a college party scene on Monday, August 11th, if you guys are free.
That's my birthday.
There will also be a scene in a bar on Monday, August the 18th, for which we will need a lot of extras. So if you want to come hang out on set and be an extra, let me know.
Sorry. You just got all these projects loading and stuff. Time-wise, though, a feature film I acted in called Lucy is a Loser, which is a lesbian rock dramedy, will be out this fall, probably making the festival circuit. I have a couple features in development that one of them's 80% funded. That's why I'm really close to getting that one kicked off. And then I'm currently editing an experimental short I shot over the last 9 months. So, yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you. All right. Enjoy the rest of Filmscape. Thanks, you guys.